Tonight's film is by one of France's most remarkable directors, Jean-Pierre Melville. He's not a director who's as well known as he should be. Probably this is because he was always intransigently independent. He was, even you might say, bloody-minded in his relation to the industry, in his relation to the people he worked with. He himself called himself impossible. And in the cinema, that generally is applied to someone who will only make what he wants to make and insists on making it in the way he wants to make it. Well, Melville is a director who sits in between the French classic directors of pre-war, 1930s, Carnet, Renoir, Duvivier, and the new wave directors of the 50s, the late 50s, Truffaut, Godard, Chabrol, etc. In fact, Melville has been said to be, if not the father of the new wave, at least perhaps its uncle. Truffaut is supposed to have seen his first film 25 times. The first film that Melville made was characteristically an independent venture, an adaptation of a book which he made without the permission of the author at first. It was Vercors' very celebrated novella called Le Silence de la Mer, in which, again characteristically, the principal characters, a German officer and a French girl, never speak to each other. After that, he did another offbeat venture, which was a version of Cocteau's novel Les Enfants Terribles. It wasn't till the late 50s and during the 60s that Melville really discovered the genre which suited him best and became most characteristic. The gangster film, the harsh, ironic world of film noir. Tonight's film is not a film noir. It's a film about the French resistance, and that is L'Armée des Ombres, the Army of the Shadows. It's from a novel by Joseph Cassel, which Melville read in London in 1943. He made the film 25 years later. Melville went back to France after being in London, and he was with the resistance for 2 years. So the film that he had always dreamed of making and that he finally made is a film that is inspired by that tragic time and also by the men and women whom he knew in the resistance, who fought and died in the fight against the German occupier. But it's important to remember also that L'Armée des Ombres is not in any way a documentary. In fact, it may not be exactly realistic. Certainly Melville would not have called it a realist film. In fact, he said, I never deal in realism. Melville described the film as a retrospective reverie. In other words, memory was very, very strong, and the feelings of memory were very, very strong in the film. And I think this is what gives it its intensity. There are moments of violence, moments of action, which break the general style, but that general style is, I would say, sober, grave, even tragic. And Melville had an interesting definition of tragedy, which applied to this film. Tragedy is the immediacy of death you get in the underworld or at a peculiar time, such as war. The characters of L'Armée des Ombres are tragic characters. You know it from the very beginning. This is quoted from an interesting book, which is an extended interview, in fact, on Melville. This tragic quality gives the film, I think, a great weight. Its characters are felt in depth, and they're marvelously acted. Lino Ventura, who sadly died quite recently, and above all, I'd say Simone Signoret, who shows once again what a great screen actress she was. L'Armée des Ombres, I have to admit, sadly, is the only Melville film I've seen. I think I'm not altogether to blame for that, because his films have not been very much shown. I'm very happy to find out that 2 further films of his are going to be shown in this season. But I think even this film, on its own, in its strength, its consistency of style, its extraordinarily personal feeling, it shows the intransigent artistry which makes Melville one of the elect directors.